I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning, everyone. Today we have the pleasure of having our very own town crier, Hugh King, give us a little intro into today's meeting. Hugh, are you on the line there?
I am. You ready?
Good morning. Yes, we are, sir.
Everyone. Thank you for having me. We'll get the camera fixed for the next time, hopefully. I am wearing my town crier hat. You hear the bell?
We hear the bell.
Okay, all right. Okay. All right, I'm going to tell you about something that happened in 1916. Everybody out there, boys and girls, parents in LTV land, this is 1916 I'm talking about. The town board was made up of 4 justices of the peace and the supervisor, and they met in the town clerk's office. And the town clerk in 1916 was E.J. Edwards. Well, his building is where the Star office now is. That was the E.J. Edwards Pharmacy. So that's where a regular town board meeting would be held. And if it was a big meeting, they'd go to the school on Newtown Lane. Okay. It's 1916. In July of 1916, a polio scare was evident in the town of East Hampton. The town had a health officer, Dr. David Edwards, not a bad idea for now. And they had an East Hampton Town Health Board, maybe another good idea for now. Certain resolutions were passed by the town board that greatly altered the lives of the people. On July 13th, 1916, the town board passed the following resolution. Whereas certain petitions have been presented to the town board asking that stringent measures be taken by the authorities for the suppression and care of any person afflicted with infantile paralysis and to guard against the disease getting a foothold in this community. Be it resolved, the health officer, Dr. David Edwards, be authorized to perfect such measures as may cause an inspection of all children coming into the town in any manner, and that he be guided as the authority by Section 24 of the Rules and Regulations. On August, it's ordered that no child under the age of 16 shall be admitted within the town of East Hampton. It was also ordered that no children under the age of 16 shall be admitted to any moving picture theater. We didn't have one. In the future, I will email. Each board member with another excerpt from the town records. While I won't do that, I'll try to be here. We really didn't have a movie theater, so I don't know what they were talking about. All right, that's my report.
Well, thank you, Hugh. Appreciate that. And I have a question for you. I don't know if you have the answer right off the top of your head, but you mentioned Dr. David Edwards. How many doctors were there in East Hampton at that time? Any idea?
I think Dr. Edwards was it. Dr. Finch, Fred Finch from Amagansett, he retired about 1904, and Dr. Edwards started in 1902, and he was a doctor in East Hampton for over 60 years. He was the doctor before Southampton Hospital, and he was the doctor who also diagnosed Rocky Mountain spotted fever for the first time out here. So he was a big timer, Dr. Edwards. He was all. I have something for Councilman Bragman, maybe the next time, about Dr. Edwards being sued twice.
It wasn't my office.
No, it wasn't your office. Okay, so hopefully next time we'll have the camera, okay?
Very good. So Hugh, I did a little research myself, and I pulled up a copy of the East Hampton Star that just before this, June 16th, 1916, just to see what was going on in town at that time. And apparently every aspect of town life was covered in the paper at that time, from the goings on and doings of people within town. Frank Barnes spent the first part of the week in Metropolis. S.J. Kelsey has purchased a new Ford Runabout this past week. Mrs. A.B. Terry spent last Tuesday in Patchogue. Miss Mary Card arrived home last Saturday from her visit to New Jersey. I'm not sure you could do anything in town without it getting in the paper at that time, because there really were very few folks in town living here. And the advertisements are rather amusing too. There's a for sale homestead by John H. King, 10 acres of farmland on Cedar Street with a paint shop, cow barn, corn crib, chicken coops, farm wagon, and 200 bushels of corn on the ear, business wagon, rubber tire, road wagon, sleigh, top buggy, one Buick automobile, rubber tire road cart, several pieces of antique mahogany furniture, and one player piano.
Wow.
So clearly this was a simpler time in 1916 rather, much simpler and less developed than currently. And we probably have many more doctors in town. And as you said, there was no Southampton hospital at that time.
Well, wait
so
a minute.
we're
Excuse me, 1916, there might have been the hospital. I think it had just started. But
okay.
When Dr. Edwards started, there was no hospital.
I see. Understood. So, we are very fortunate now to have such a great hospital as Southampton, and newly expanded to be able to deal with this current crisis of COVID-19. I just wanted to give a couple very brief updates regarding COVID-19 this morning. Continued rise number of cases on Long Island as of 9:30 this morning. There were 24,353 confirmed cases within Suffolk County. Southampton Town has 349 cases. East Hampton has 109 confirmed cases. And at this point, and as we've been saying all along, because there's not widespread testing available for everyone at this point, and only those who are displaying symptoms are being tested, there's really no way of knowing if anyone is sick or not, or carrying the disease asymptomatically. And so at this point, and as we've been recommending for well over a week, people will need to be wearing face masks when out in public, unless they can socially distance. If they're in any situation where they're going to be less than 6 feet from each other, they're now required to wear masks. This is a recent executive order from the governor, and we will be placing signs throughout the town reminding the public that they need to be wearing masks in public. Anyone who is using the sanitation department to drop off recyclables or dispose of garbage should be wearing a face covering at this time. So please take care of yourself and those around you by wearing a face covering. At this point, I would like to just also say that I've been speaking and in constant contact with the food pantries, and I spoke to Vicki Littman, who is running the East Hampton food pantry. And as of this past week, they've jumped from what is typical this time of year of 245 families to 446 families, which represents over 1,000 individuals that are now getting served by just the East Hampton food pantry. And again, we ask that members of the community consider financial donations to all of our food pantries and to our Eleanor Whitmore Early Childhood Development Center, who provides childcare for healthcare workers and other essential workers. These are key components in keeping our community functioning and taking care of people within our community. So we ask you to be generous, and also you can be heroic and do the right thing by just staying home as much as possible and avoiding contact with others. Again, we don't know who has the disease and who doesn't. You can carry the disease without showing any symptoms and be contagious. That's probably one of the biggest reasons why we're seeing more widespread disease, and in close quarters and highly dense locations, the disease is spreading much quicker. We're fortunate that we are less dense out here in terms of numbers of people. Even our summertime numbers are well below and less dense in many of the up island communities. Islip, for instance, at this point has over 64 100 cases. That's roughly 19 cases per 1,000 of population. By comparison, Montauk is 3 cases per 1,000. So again, let's try and maintain social distancing. This is our best way of preventing the spread of the disease. And if you do have to go out in public, and we ask you not to, unless you're going to pick up essential items, please wear a face covering and stay away from others if you're out recreating. At this point, I would like to move on to public comment. And Jason, do we have anyone who's called in?
We currently have no callers on the line, but the number is displayed.
Very good. Well, we'll move on with our agenda, and if callers come in, if you could let us know, we'll take a moment to hear those comments. We certainly want to hear from the public as much as possible. We want to hear their comments and their questions, and we hope everyone out there is staying safe and being well.
Peter, before we go into resolutions, may I please say a couple words? I want to talk about an issue.
Sure, Jeff.
I'd wanted to talk about working in the food stores, which has been in our awareness in the last few days. We all buy our groceries, and the good people that we know that work there every day give us their help and their assistance. And I think we have to remember that their service and work, protects our health. And in a way, they are kind of soldiers in the battle that we're fighting to protect everyone. And I wanted to say that I think we need to keep them safe, even as they keep us safe. In ordinary times when you chat with the cashier or the guy who helps with stocking the shelves, it's a small matter. And something that we don't really think of as of any great importance, but these aren't ordinary times. And, I'm learning that these small exchanges that seem to be nothing really can be everything, as they are right now. And I wanted to say to the board and to the public that if they have the need and the town has the money, I think that we have a moral obligation to provide them with protective equipment and to make that a priority for the town in the same way that we're trying to do that for town workers. And I think we could also include the volunteers that are helping out with all those deliveries to the seniors. And, I was looking through the resolutions that we're going to go through shortly, and I know that there's a strong feeling about returning to business as usual. But I am a little worried about it being a tempting invitation to think about a normal summer, with all the things that we enjoy about summer and the beach concessions and the Montauk skate park. But I just wanted to say that I think it's obvious that we're not there yet. And it's very important for us, especially in light of what you just said about the numbers not being really accurate at this point, that we hold on to this group safety. That is our best protection. And we really need to rigorously comply with the governor's orders. And the only way that works, as everybody on the board knows, is if we're all in. And I just want to say reluctantly, but truthfully, that I'm not in favor of business as usual until we're committed to the safety of everybody. And I would ask the board to immediately allocate a substantial fund, perhaps somewhere in the range of $100,000, for the purchase of more protective gear, because I think we need to show a firm financial commitment of the local government to do what's right, even for workers that are working in stores, even for volunteers, so that we protect the safety of every one of us who's in danger. And I really think that at this point, when we may only be at the end of the beginning, the time is now to do this. Our volunteers need protective gear, and those workers need protective gear. We need them, and they're keeping us safe. So I'm hoping the town can act on that.
Well, thank you, Jeff. We actually have already acted on that. We have been continually purchasing PPE and distributing them amongst first responders and making them available. We put out a press release several days ago requesting donations for the purchase or the actual physical donations of PPE so that we could distribute them within the community to those essential workers that you're talking about. This has been an ongoing effort. And at this point, it hasn't required that we actually expend funds to provide the PPEs. We've been in constant contact with the food retailers, with pharmacies. We have additional outreach to them. We did get from one food retailer some concerns that she was having trouble purchasing on her own, finding an actual supplier. We've been circulating those suppliers to various people. The governor has mandated that all food stores and essential workers now wear masks and protective equipment. This is something we recommended 3 weeks ago to all of our local establishments, and many of them adopted protocols to protect their workers over that time. And this is something that's been rapidly evolving, whether it was putting up sneeze shields or whatever, if you will, at cash registers and whatnot. I think if you looked at today's paper, Jeff, you would have seen that in Montauk, the IGA there was actually taking temperatures of people upon entering, wanting to enter the store, as well as making sure that there were masks and gloves. And so again, we've been saying this for weeks. We're in constant contact to be able to provide wherever there are shortages. To date, we haven't had an issue with shortages, but that was the reason we had outreach. We certainly can be adapting to whatever situation comes up. We agree that these frontline workers are essential to keep them healthy and to keep the rest of the public healthy, and so these measures are necessary at this time. And this is a very fluid situation. And as much as I think we all want to get back to normal, I'm not convinced that normal is going to be the same as normal was. It's going to be a new normal, and it's going to be something that I think we need to be very cautious about because, again, without widespread testing of everyone, it's impossible to know who really is contagious. And we have a lot of people are vulnerable. It was really sad to hear a story about a Colorado healthcare worker who became infected. Her husband became infected. He had underlying health issues, diabetes. They both recovered. Their perfectly healthy 21-year-old son, unfortunately, passed away. And so I think, we have to continue to be extremely cautious. Everybody has to be very patient, taking care of each other, taking care of themselves. And we will get through this, but I don't think it's going to be summer as usual by any means.
Well, I agree with that. I just want
to hold on, Jeff, please. I don't want to keep this caller waiting. I heard from Jason that we have a caller on the line.
I just want to make one quick comment, and that is that I asked for a financial commitment in light of the town's request for donations. I think we should act quickly, get the equipment, worry about paying for it or later, because we should not be asking for donations for these kind of workers now. We should have that equipment on hand for them.
There is equipment on hand for them, Jeff. And again, this is an effort that's been repeated. Has been repeated throughout the county. The county executive had asked for community members to provide PPE. We've had other local towns who've also taken this on, dispensing PPEs and taking donations. If it gets to the point where we have to expend funds, I'm certainly willing to expend funds. This is a very worthy cause for the expenditure of funds to keep our public safe. So that is not an issue. This is not a financial issue at this point. It's going to be based on need. So if we see the need, we certainly will respond to the need.
Timing is important.
So we have thank you.
If I may, just so you know, Jeff, East End Cares reached out to us and asked us to get gloves for their volunteers who are shopping for our seniors, and we have ordered them. We're just waiting for them to pick them up. So we are.
I know. I'm in touch with East End Cares, and they're also raising money for masks. Those are folks that could also benefit from immediate cash from the town. I think action is important quickly.
Thank you, Jeff. And we're obviously responding
Peter.
to those requests that come in. To date, I have none. So, but I appreciate your concern. At this point, I want to go to the callers because we have folks that are waiting on the line. I really want to hear from the public. Jason, you have a caller on the line?
Caller, you're on the line.
Hello.
Hi, good
Thank
morning.
you very much.
Who's on the
This is
call?
David Buddha.
David Buddha.
Good morning. This is David Buddha.
Hi, David.
Long time no hear, David. How are you? Hope you're well.
Very good. Thank you. I want to say I appreciate all the work that Mr. Supervisor and all town board members are doing to keep the public informed. And I'm doing my bit, too, trying to keep my local community informed of pertinent events and concerning the COVID-19 pandemic as it affects us here. But I have two ordinary matters that I want to discuss with you. First is I'd like an update on what is the status of the tax grievance season, which is scheduled, still I believe, scheduled for May 1 through May 19, and it's extremely difficult for both professionals and individual homeowners to get the data they need at the current time.
So the tax grievance at this point is still on the same schedule, but I expect an announcement either today or in the next day or two that the timeline will be pushed out by a month. Again, we've received verbal confirmation of this, and we're waiting to get something in writing. But it looks like the grievance day of May 19th will likely be pushed off to June 16th. But at this point, we don't have the definitive in writing from the governor's office. But they have been looking at that, and we do expect within the next day or two to get written confirmation.
Thank you. That's a reasonable accommodation. It also might be time for the town to look at the need to update our public access to assessment data online by either subscription or otherwise. I think we're behind the times. Southampton town has a much better system, and right now,
so we are
actually,
actually working. I'm sorry. Go ahead. We're actually
I was just saying that,
working on.
Go ahead, Pete.
I was going to say that we've been in discussions. All of the Long Island towns are on a daily call together with the county executive's office. And this is something that's been discussed for weeks now about how we might respond to the upcoming tax deadlines and whatnot. And while Southampton has electronic grievance filing, much of Long Island does not. So many of us, including East Hampton, are looking to change over to an electronic filing of grievances, which would definitely make the system much more efficient. So we're not quite at the stage of implementing that yet, but we may in fact be by the time the extended grievance day arrives. And again, this is all very fluid. As Councilman Bragman was alluding to earlier, it's really hard to predict how quickly we can get back to some semblance of normal. And many of the various aspects of government will have to be moved to accommodate the current situation, whether it be teleconferencing for public hearings or electronic remote filing of grievances. So this is something we are actively working on. And it's good to hear your voice, David. I hadn't heard from you in a while, so it's getting a little concerned.
Okay, I'm perfectly well, thank you. I do have one other matter I want to just bring up as a topic. I'm concerned about Resolution 2019-1200, which is the proposed proposal to authorize the acquisition of a property in Ditch Plains by CPF funds. It had been tabled back in October. I raised an issue as to whether the property had merged with the adjacent property. You were going to, I heard, order a single and separate title search. I requested a copy of it by FOIL. I haven't received anything, so I have no idea whether it's on the agenda today so that it can be formally terminated, or whether you're going forward to acquire this property.
It's listed as to be voted on today. And John Jelnicki, are you there, John? Do you want to give David an update as to the situation with the Ute property?
we had the single and separate search done. We did find that there was ownership of 2 parcels for a period of time, I believe in the 1970s. But building inspector had located a variance that was granted for those 2 lots, and the zoning has not changed since. They are still they were deemed to be single and separate by the building inspector after review of the single and separate search and the zoning board's approval.
Well, that zoning board approval is not listed in the town building records, so I'd be curious to see it. I certainly haven't received a response to my FOIL request, and this also brings up the need for the town to make available to the public online, either by subscription or otherwise, building records that are posted in Govern and assessment records and all other types of government information that the public has to schlep into the town offices in order to access.
I'll be happy to forward to you what I have.
So, David, with regard to that information, that is something, as you may know, we've been working towards and have actually been digitizing various departments for the last several years. That's an ongoing process and capital expenditure. We are committed to making sure that as much town business as possible can be done remotely via the internet. So, it's likely that at some point in the future, we'll adopt a subscription type of setup for businesses, tax attorneys, whatever you have there, builders, whatnot, that could subscribe and then make records available that residents can access their own information without a charge or subscription. That's the model that we're moving towards.
Well, let me just close by saying I would just urge you to be extremely cautious about that determination on the Ute property, because there's just no indication of any zoning variance being granted that I can find. And it's an interesting, complicated matter, perhaps, but I haven't seen anything in writing that would explain the facts as I requested by a FOIL formal request. So that's all I can say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David. And John, you'll follow up with David on that.
I'll send him the information I have. Sure. Both the building department records and the search.
We have one more caller on the line.
I've accessed it.
Sorry about that.
Oh, David, are you still there?
I just want to say I have accessed the Govern records in the town building department, and there was no indication in the Govern town building permit information file of any variances, and that's why I make that statement. Thank you, and have a great day.
You too, David. Be well. Jason, you have another caller on the line?
Yes, we do.
Hi, Peter. It's Bonnie Brady calling from Montauk. Hello, town board members. Hi, Bonnie. I'm calling today. Hi, I'm not looking at the TV so that I don't confuse talking with watching. Anyway, I want to reiterate some of the claims that Councilman Bragman had mentioned. Right now, and I know Southampton Village had instituted a policy, I read about it yesterday, where anyone in an essential worker status could go to call the village and they would get a mask. But right now, just from the group that we started 2 weeks ago in Montauk, we've handed out over 100 masks, and I have a total list for 300 others, and that's just for essential workers. Now, part of the issue is the masks we're making are washable. However, when I asked you a couple of days ago regarding where those masks are going to, because there are people right now that are essential workers in Montauk and every other hamlet that do not have masks. And I understand what you said, Peter, about employers required. However, if you've been following the PPE route, and I've known people that have been trying to import masks when the county executive, Mr. Ballone, had asked for PPE, that was specific N95 masks for medical workers. Now, there are a variety of other N95 options because surgical masks only work about 70 to 80% at taking anything less than 1 micron. They are highly ineffective compared to an N95 or something that we're making, which is cotton pre-wash with a MERV 13 filter, which takes out 90% or greater of 1 micron size, which would cover for the droplets. My point of all of this is I think it's a really good idea to not only create a fund, but start putting purchasing, because these things, in order to get this equipment, as anyone has tried, take weeks. I know someone specifically that has been working weeks ago to try to bring more masks into New York, and it took over a week to try to just get through the regulatory hoops that are required. So I believe, and I think right now is the time. I have a list. I can go through the list and send it to the entire town board, because we're trying to make masks that can be used at no cost to us, but we only have about 8 or 10 sewers, and those can be used and washed and reused. However, people right now on the front lines do not have them. So I'm very concerned as to the process as to how they're being distributed, because frankly, I know, for at least speaking as being Montauk centric, we have a multitude of small businesses that are considered essential workers, and we just don't have enough hands to sew them. The project that you mentioned with LVIS has been kind enough to actually donate material. But it's Alyssa Lowenstein-Meyer that is actually the one who has taken up the charge in East Hampton after learning about what we were doing in Montauk. So I think that someone needs to be put on a list to find out all those essential workers, find out who needs what, and even if they can get a couple of disposable, because none of those masks are supposed to be used for more than one day, that needs to be done pretty much yesterday. The PPE request that went out from the county, that was for healthcare workers and for fire department. And I know I spoke to fire department people. They're good, but everyone else that's on the front lines isn't. And so I think the town needs to be much more proactive and start really cranking out and getting these masks to essential workers immediately. And we are bringing up as many, like I said, we've already made about 120 and given them out. We have a list of another 300, and that's just Montauk alone. So this is not something, donations are great, and that's super. However, people should be purchasing this now and bringing it to these towns now, the hamlets now, so that people can use them. And then whoever is voluntarily trying to do this, we're running out of time, is my point. Thank you.
I just want to add that I've spoken to, East End Cares. I'm in touch with them, and they're currently trying to raise money to buy masks. So what I'm saying is, let's jumpstart this thing.
And absolutely, Jeff, because I'm a member of East End Cares. I was the person that was in charge of supplies at the community church basement during Sandy. I was the one that called Jeff Lynch that got the 3 jitneys that he kindly donated to a group of us to be able to get to the Rockaways 3 days after the incident, the first people that were on the scene. I think, like any other good emergency management plan, which according to at least the one on the town website, hasn't been updated since 2015. Obviously, this is a totally different issue because it's almost biohazard, but this needs to be dealt with very quickly, because the lag time between when you purchase something and when you get it, for example, the material that we're using that's MERV 13, it took 8 days to get. And so even saying, oh, yes, we have the money to purchase it, if you haven't purchased it yesterday, we could be waiting to a point where, if in theory, if we go based on what Mr. Ballone has said, the surge to Long Island could be happening in the next week or so.
Thank you, Bonnie. Appreciate you calling in, and thanks for all you're doing with sewing masks and distributing them within the community. Again, we have...
Oh, Peter, I'm not sewing a thing. I'm a horrible seamstress.
Okay.
So
right.
It's
Thank
a
you,
bunch
Bonnie.
of really great individuals that are doing a great job. I'm good at talking on the phone. Sometimes maybe not. But the people that really need to be the ones that are appreciated are all of our seamstresses and or tailors, but we only have about 10 of them. And we've got people cutting. We have people that are transporting from place to place, using PPE requirements to make sure that everything is working out right. But we, frankly, don't have enough hands. And so I think the town needs to act.
We hear you. We hear you loud and clear, Bonnie, and I appreciate you calling in. And I just want to say, in terms of PPE, we are, again, in constant contact with both the county and the state. The county executive is now making stockpiles available to essential workers as well. I don't see us having a problem at this very moment. We are looking ahead and are constantly vetting sources for the purchase of PPE through our emergency preparedness department. Bruce Bates is on that every single day. And again, we've asked for local donations of PPE just in case we get a gap, a shortfall. Right now, we don't have a shortfall. And if there are essential workers that don't have masks, certainly contact the town and we'll see what resources we can bring to bear immediately in providing the physical masks now. So,
right.
So,
I can tell you
again,
we
await to hear.
Excuse me. Okay, you can hear from me because I'm the one who's got the list, who's been going down it and also reaching out to the Hispanic community.
I am hearing from you, and I would ask you to please send the list if you have one, but to date we haven't received one.
Well, right, because we've been doing this initially as an effort, and there hasn't been a town-wide effort that is run parallel track to that. So we've been doing it on the ground on our own because no one else had been in that position. But we have approximately 300 pieces of masks that are necessary that we could give to people right now while we try to finish doing these hand-wash reusable kind, because the PPE that exists right now for essential workers, the only thing that has been accessible to them has been surgical masks, and those don't do the job. So especially since they're on the front lines, and they are on the front lines often without a 6-foot barrier. Because for droplets, you've got the cell nuclei, which is 0.2675 in size, and the droplets, which are 3 to 5 microns.
I'm aware of the science. And I appreciate you calling in and your concerns, and we certainly will address this issue. It's ongoing. We will continue to address the issue. We've been addressing the issue, and thanks for calling.
I hope, Peter, then that if I send you an email with the list of the numbers of people, that we can get it, and I'll be glad to drive it up because I have this list on my possession right now.
We would appreciate very much you emailing us the list of anyone who has expressed a current need or shortage of PPE who is an essential frontline worker. Thanks for calling in, Bonnie.
Yeah. Peter, I have to tell you, a lot of people are looking to us to do that for them because we offered first and because it's been out there on social media. What I'm suggesting is if we can get our hands on at least 300 pieces to 350 pieces of individual masks. I have a list here that I've been
Bonnie, we'd appreciate that. We would appreciate the list. We're not going to dispense masks to just a single individual without knowing where they're going. So if you give us a list, we'll certainly follow up on that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Do we have another caller, Jason?
We currently have no other callers on the line.
Okay, we'll go on to doing our resolutions, and if you get additional callers, please text me or break in audio and let us know, because I definitely want to hear from the public.
Will do.
Resolution 2020-451 is approval of the warrant. Claims total $2,113,273.77. And the utility warrant totals $38,326.07.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passed and carried.
I would like to untable resolution 2019-1200.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'd like to present resolution 2019-1200. This authorizes the CPF acquisition and amend the 2019 M&S plan for the purported owners of Florence and Frank Ute at 17 Brisbane Road, Montauk, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-31-1-3. Whereas pursuant to the general municipal law of the state of New York, the town board held the public hearing October 17th, 2019 to consider acquisition of approximately 0.17 acres of land at 17 Brisbane Road. The purported owner has expressed a willingness to sell the above property. And for the town, the purchase price was $350,000, whereas the proposed said acquisition is for preservation of open space.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passed and carried.
2020. I'm so sorry. 2020-452 is a bond authorization of $30,000 for the Montauk skate park improvements. The bond resolution of the town of East Hampton for Suffolk County, New York, adopted April 16th, 2020, authorizes the Montauk skate park improvements, stating that the estimate maximal cost thereof is $30,000. And one moment on there. And the PPU on this, I believe, is 15 sorry, the PPU is 15 years.
Can you just explain PPU so the folks out listening to us will know?
Sure,
Period
the
of
period of probable
use.
usefulness.
Just so they understand.
Sure. The PPU is acronym for the period of probable usefulness applicable to the purpose for which said bonds are authorized is 15 years. This is the anticipated life of the piece of equipment that is to be purchased.
Understood.
I'm seconding.
All in favor? Do we need a roll call?
Yeah.
Councilwoman Burke Gonzalez,
Aye.
Councilman Lees,
Aye.
Councilwoman Overby,
Aye.
Councilman Bragman,
Aye.
Supervisor Van Scoyac.
Aye, passed and carried.
2020-453 is a bond for $200,000 for the construction of dock improvements. This will authorize the construction of dock improvements for the estimated maximum cost of $200,000. The PPU of this is 20 years, and these specifically is an initiative to fix and reinstall fix and install the current docks with new toppings out in Montauk, both on East Lake and on West Lake and on Star Island.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Councilwoman Burke Gonzalez,
Aye.
Councilman Lees,
Aye.
Councilwoman Overby,
Aye.
Councilman Bragman,
Aye.
Supervisor Van Scoyac.
Aye, passed and carried.
2020-454 is a bond for $67,500 for replacement of various pylons within the township. The PPU for this also is 20 years.
Second.
Councilwoman Burke Gonzalez,
Aye.
Councilman Lees,
Aye.
Councilwoman Overby,
Aye.
Councilman Bragman,
Aye.
Supervisor Van Scoyac.
Aye, passed and carried.
2020-455 is a bond for $650,000 for the acquisition of heavy-duty vehicles and equipment for various departments. The PPU for this is 15 years. This would be for the acquisition of the first ever town electric lawnmower, acquisition of Packer trucks. In the highway department, it would be for dump trucks, a payloader, 1-ton trucks, 4-door truck with plow, and acquisition of used heavy-duty equipment.
Can you redo the number, David? I think I've got $651,500.
That's correct.
Yes, it's bond for $651,500.
Roll call.
Councilwoman Burke Gonzalez,
Aye.
Councilman Lees,
Aye.
Councilwoman Overby,
Aye.
Councilman Bragman,
Aye.
Supervisor Van Scoyac.
Aye, passed and carried.
2020-456. This is the Buckskill Meadow Trunzel Preserve Management Plan to schedule a public hearing. The town is the owner of real estate located at 138 and 148 Buckskill Road. The Nature Preserve Committee has created a proposed draft management plan for this parcel titled Buckskill Meadow. And it was discussed at the town board work session on November 19th, 2019. I would like to amend this resolution so that the public hearing would be held on May 21st at 11 a.m. And the notice would be hereby given. We'll hold the public hearing remotely. Please contact us. It can be watched on local television channel 22. And there will be a call-in number. I would also like to amend that to read as 351-888-6331.
Do I have a second as amended?
Second as amended.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passed and carried.
2020-457 is a notice of bidders for EH20-015. This is for the mobile food concession for Gin Beach for the 2020 bid. The bid is available from April 23rd, 2020. The bid is due on May 14th, 2020. Specifications are available at the purchasing department office and may be picked up between the hours of 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. Monday to Friday, except holidays, beginning Thursday, April 23rd, 2020.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passed and carried.
2020-458 is to set the bid of EH20 2020-008 for the mobile food concessions for Select Town Beaches in 2020, Exotic Bowls for Indian Wells, and Abigail Monahan for Ditch Witch for Otis Road. Whereas the town clerk and Jeannie Croza and senior purchasing agent have reviewed the bid submitted and recommend the award of the contract to the highest responsible bidders. Exotic Bowls won the opening bid, Indian Wells for 3 years for $22,600, and Abigail Monahan, Ditch Witch for Otis Road for 3 years for $39,012.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Resolution 2020-459 is to set a public hearing to consider amendments to Chapter 255 with regard to fences, gates, pillars, and walls. We discussed this at Tuesday's work session, and it needs to be amended as to, it would be a public hearing by teleconferencing with the phone number 351-888-6331.
Second.
And the date on that is?
I'm sorry. Yeah, the date on that is this.
May 21st?
No,
It's
it's May
the
7th
7th, May 7th.
at
Do I
11
have a second? Second is amended.
Second is amended.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Okay, whoops. Sorry. All right, I think I'm doing this right. All right, it's resolution 2020-460 is a notice to bidders. EH20-013 is the annual contract for cesspool cleaning and tank pumping for 2020. The bid is available 4/16 and it's due back on 5/7.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and
Aye.
carried.
I'm sorry.
Resolution 2020-461 is a bid, notice for bidders, notice for proposal RFP EH 2020-103 is the Town of East Hampton Energy Initiative Support Services. The proposal is available April 23rd, 2020, and it is due May 21st, 2020.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Passed and carried.
Resolution 2020-462 is to retain SoundSense to assist the town in analysis of noise issues related to the proposed Deepwater Wind project. The town hereby retains the professional services of SoundSense to assist the town in analyzing noise impacts from the installation of the transmission cable and the new interconnection facility for Deepwater South Fork Wind project, and in analyzing Deepwater Wind South Fork's draft noise control and mitigation plan at the rate set forth in this proposal.
Second, can we have discussion on this for a moment?
Sure.
Go ahead, Jeff.
I have opposed moving forward with Deepwater's planned route in Wainscott until they complete the environmental review. This hiring of this consultant is a part and parcel of them moving forward on that portion of the project. But I'm going to vote for it because I'm in the minority on this, and certainly if they do wind up moving forward, we should have the assistance of noise control consulting to try to minimize impacts. In a perfect world, I would rather that we would not be promoting them to move forward until the environmental. But this is government.
Well, I appreciate that, but I also think this is necessary so that we, again, know before we go that we've got knowledge of what this could and impact nearby residents. So I think it's a brave step to move forward. Thank you, Dave. Thank you. Yeah.
No, I'm Jeff.
Yeah. Sorry.
And I think we'd know more before we go if we waited till the environmental review was concluded.
Well, we need it all. We need to know all of it. We don't need to know parts of it.
Yeah, part of
hurry?
knowing. So there is no hurry. Actually, the discussions are pushed off until August, and there's absolutely no hurry or rush. And this is just part of a very methodical review and making sure that we understand what the implications of any construction would be, and that any kind of negative impacts would be fully mitigated. And I think knowing that is early in the process as you would in a secret process, is important. So we're going to, I think we have a second on that from Jeff, and I think we're ready to take a vote on this. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye, passed and carried.
Jeff,
Mr. Bragman?
Yes, here we are. I'm sorry, it took me a little while to scroll up here. Resolution 2020-463 is to approve an amendment of an agreement we have with Cornell Cooperative Extension. And this deals with our efforts to mitigate and improve the water quality of Pussy's Pond, and a number of pretty interesting efforts that the town is making, including semi-permeable reactive barriers to mitigate the impacts from runoff pour water into the pond, and also some very interesting science. They're experimenting with efforts to change the salinity of the pond in a controlled manner to see what its effects are on Phragmites in the pond. And it appears from preliminary results that by changing the salinity for a period of time without overall changing the salinity of the pond is having an ameliorating effect on the presence of Phragmites, which are invasive and damaging to the waterways. And this resolution authorizes us to extend our agreement with Cornell Cooperative Extension to do new work, and it would not exceed an amount of $23,900, and they're going to continue on with these nitrogen reduction efforts, their restoration efforts, and their Phragmites, their efforts to control and lessen the impact of Phragmites. So it's a good piece of work and some interesting science, and I appreciate Melissa Winslow's involvement in this. That's a beautiful pond, and I want to see it in pristine condition. It's a beautiful spot, which I hope we can open up to the public at some point so I can go and sit and enjoy it again.
Well, it is actually open to the public still, Jeff.
Well,
you can go sit there if you like. So
yeah,
do we have a second?
I meant on a basis where we could actually sit together, Peter.
Second.
And I'll just have a discussion on this, just quickly. To what Jeff was also saying, I think one of the important things within this resolution with Cornell Cooperative is that the town is putting a lot of money forward into water quality projects, but we need to make sure that the science behind these water quality projects, there's the great to go in and have the initiative to do so, but we wanted to see exactly what's the science of the effect. How much nitrogen are we taking out of the entire system of Accabonac Harbor from the Pussy's Pond? And I think that's important aspect of this, is that they're going to be monitoring that and coming back to us and say, our load is decreasing by this much. So we know that if we're putting in $100,000, we're getting this much of decrease. I think that gives everyone, all the taxpayers in the town of East Hampton, the residents, a calming effect that we know that we're putting the money in the right place and we're getting good results out of it. So I appreciate you putting this forward. So I will also.
So we have a second, all in favor, and we voted, and that's passed and carried. 2020-464 is a bond for $403,130 for construction and of drainage improvements.
Second.
Do we have a roll call, Carol?
Councilwoman Burke Gonzalez.
Aye.
Councilman Lees.
Aye.
Councilwoman Overby.
Aye.
Councilman Bragman.
Aye.
Supervisor Van Scoyac.
Aye, passed and carried. 465 is a bond for $350,000 for construction of road improvements.
Second.
Councilwoman
Roll call.
Burke Gonzalez.
Aye.
Councilman Lees.
Aye.
Councilwoman Overby.
Aye.
Councilman Bragman.
Aye.
Supervisor Van Scoyac.
Aye, passed and carried. 466 is to pay previous year's invoices for Sprint Solutions in the amount totaling $243.18.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passed and carried. 467 is to extend contract EH 18023, annual contract for the supply and delivery of international truck parts. And this is for Syosset Truck Sales. and that is effective from May 15th, 2020 through May 14th, 2021.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passed and carried. 468 is to extend contract EH 19013, annual contract for portable toilets, rental and servicing, Call Ahead Corp. and Outback Portable Toilets Incorporated. And that is from period of May 9th, 2020 through May 8th, 2021.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Passed and carried. 469 is to extend contract EH 19011, printing of police forms, April 2019. And that's for effective colors in May 9th, 2020 through May 8th, 2021.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Passed and carried. 2020-470 is notice of bidders. Bid number EH 20014, printing of envelopes and business cards, 2020. The bid is available April 16th, 2020. Bid opening is May 14th, 2020.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passed and carried. 2020-471 is to extend contract EH 18026, supply and delivery of genuine Ford OEM parts, 2018. That's Newlands Bay Shore Ford Incorporated, and that's for a period from June 7th, 2020 through June 6th, 2021.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Passed and carried. 472 is to approve approval of pay of past due invoices for Allen Burke backhoe service for Fort Hill Cemetery in the amount of $2,200.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Passed and carried. 473 is to pay 2019 invoices for snow plowing, and that's for Richard Sperber in the amount of $1,332.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Passed and carried. 474 is to amend Resolution 2020-276, 2020 retained law firm of Picano and Scahill, PC, and that's in the matter of new singular wireless BCS, DBA TT Mobility versus the Planning Board of the Town of East Hampton. And that's not to exceed $25,000.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Passed and carried. 475 is intermunicipal agreement for 81 Ocean Avenue in East Hampton Village. And whereas the village and the town wish to enter into an intermunicipal agreement in order to establish the village with the sole right and responsibility to manage and maintain, supervise, and control all premises, except for the wetland restoration project on premises that might be mutual, agreed upon with the parties, for paid for with community preservation funds.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried. Are there any additional resolutions or matters to bring before the board?
No.
I make a motion.
Jason, do you have any other callers on the line?
We currently have no callers on the line.
Okay, I'll take a motion to go into executive session.
I make a motion to go into executive session for, are we doing contracts and litigation?
Contracts and litigation. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Jason will be now going into executive session. I'd just like to say to the general public, stay safe, be well, and we will get through this together. Thank you.